Hi everybody, this is Liam from Running Remote, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about something a little bit special. It is 5 things you need to know to convince your boss to work remotely. Let's do it. So, this is not one of my usual videos. Usually I build videos for the founders or operators inside of a remote business, but we do get requests, there's maybe about 4 or 5 of you out there, that are employees inside of remote organizations. And a lot of you are also coming to me asking, well, I don't currently work in a remote organization, but I'd like to work remotely. Well, this video is specifically for you. I've identified 5 specific strategies that you can implement to be able to actually convince your boss to be able to allow you to work remotely. So number 1 is you want to talk to your employer about the statistics on remote work. On average, it is going to make employees about 20% more productive and increase retention by approximately 30%. I will probably have a link down below with a couple studies that you can send to your employer to be able to show them that, but generally that is what most studies have proven. And if your employer really wants to know about this, just kind of send them to this video. And I'm more than happy to be able to communicate through video to them the overall stats on remote work. There's a couple other videos that I might link up here too, specifically connected to the advantages of remote work. Generally, it is the biggest single thing that you can do to be able to improve employee productivity and also increase retention, which in essence adds to employee happiness. And happy employees equals good employees that stick around longer and don't hate you. So keep that in mind if you're an employer. Number 2, every single time that I speak to a large corporation and talk to them about going remote, they ask this same question: how do I know what they're doing? Well, you can use a tool like Time Doctor. Go to timedoctor.com to be able to check that out. And this basically totally solves that problem. It allows you to measure all of the generalized metrics connected to your particular workday and allows an employer to be able to know how productively you're working and where you're putting your time. On the employee side, it also allows you to be able to maximize your own personal productivity and know where you're putting your time and how to make your time more productive. For anyone that's interested, there's a 14-day trial. It's super easy to be able to implement, and I highly suggest trying it out, particularly if your boss is apprehensive about remote work. This is an excellent way to be able to allow your boss to basically solve one of his or her biggest problems, which is, how do I know what you're actually doing when you're working from home? Are you just playing World of Warcraft all day long on your computer? Well, Time Doctor will solve that problem. Number 3 is you should really do this on a trial. So a lot of the times when I talk to a remote employee or employee that wants to actually have a remote work agreement, they end up really being frustrated because the employer just says no. And what I would say in response would be, listen, let me try it on a 1-month trial. Let's come together. I can implement a tool like Time Doctor if you want. You can really see what my productivity metrics are going to look like in comparison to other people on the team. And if I'm not productive, or if you're really not happy with the results, then I'm happy to be able to go back inside of the office. This is something that is quite low cost for an employer, where they're just like, okay, well, I'll give this a shot. This is something that probably other employees have been looking at as well, and I can experiment with this 1-month trial and not necessarily lose anything. The biggest risk that I have is losing a month's of an employee's time and salary. So implement that. I'm gonna link you down to even some like remote work agreements that you can implement that would make this process really easy. And you could just literally outline, like, we're gonna do this for 1 month. It's gonna be super easy. Everything's gonna be cool. And if you're not happy with these particular metrics that I've hit, then I'll come back inside of the office. However, if it were me, I would make sure that my productivity metrics are fantastic when I'm working remotely. But anyways, up to you. Number 4, you're actually gonna implement a remote work agreement. And I actually have one down below. It comes from a friend of mine who's literally like a remote work expert or a remote work legal expert. So there's a couple templates that you can grab and just literally implement right off the bat. But I know for me, that's another thing that a lot of employers are a little bit apprehensive about, like, where do I pay your income tax? Where are you located? All of those little details need to kind of be worked out if you're gonna work long-term remotely, particularly if you're going to travel and become a digital nomad and work remotely. So it's really important to be able to lay all that stuff out, and these templates work beautifully for being able to solve that. So if you check down in the links below, we will have some examples of remote work agreements. Regardless of whether you want to use one of those remote work agreements that are down below or not, what I would suggest that you do is outline where you're going to work, where you're going to be located, what requirements you have. Do you have to work a certain amount of hours? Do you have to work a certain shift? Are you required to do certain types of work and not other types of work? When are you required to actually show up if there's an emergency, as an example? All of these little details really need to be worked out, and it's quite easy to be able to work them out at the beginning, as opposed to working them out while you're already working remotely, and it creates stress between both you and your employer. So definitely check those out below, or just put one together yourself. Number 5 is, what I would suggest that you do is also put together a productivity agreement. So what are the main KPIs, key responsibility areas, that you are responsible for inside of your job? So is it creating a certain amount of sales? Is it answering a certain amount of tickets? Is it coding a certain amount of lines of code, as an example? What is it for you? And then let's put that down on a piece of paper, and then let's actually measure that. You can use a tool like Time Doctor, or you can use any other tool that measures overall productivity. But like, fundamentally, I would just sit down and just work out all these numbers and then say, okay, long term, if my numbers dip below that amount, then you as the manager, you can come to me and talk about what that issue might be, and then I can very quickly try to solve it, or to keep my numbers up to where they're supposed to be. Just because someone's working remotely doesn't mean that you shouldn't actively be managing them. And this is something that a lot of people don't really get when they first go remote, is they think, oh, okay, now I can travel the world, or I can work from home, and my commute is 20 steps from my bedroom to my office. Well, not really. Make sure that you've kept all of these metrics together, and we make sure that everyone on the team is very accountable towards that inside of the company with these productivity agreements. So I would suggest that you write one out as well. And an honorable mention, number 6, is if you have any trouble with actually coming up with these types of agreements, what I would suggest that you do is you convince your boss to go to Running Remote, which is the largest conference on building and scaling remote teams, which just happens to be this year in Austin, Texas. It's real close. Everyone can fly in for it, as opposed to Bali, where we had it last year. So if you're interested, go check out runningremote.com. If you're really interested in watching some more videos, I'm sure that I'm probably gonna have some videos linked up around here, around this particular video that I'm floating around right now. And if you really, really like all of these videos and the videos that I'm making, why don't you subscribe to this YouTube channel? It's free, it doesn't cost you anything. So I'll see you in the next video, and until then, take care.